Hello, Soul Healing Revolution. Welcome back to another Temple Talk live. The Sunday sermon you wish you grew up with.
Is that a new tagline?
That's the new tagline. I just made it up today.
I like it.
I'm sorry. I'm really needing to compose. He was whispering things in my ear before I pushed the live button, so you'll have to pardon me. I'm still regaining my composure. Okay, today we are talking about the divine union between our relationship. I think we're bringing you a vibe. We are.
Well, let's just kind of recap the last few days. So we had we were going to be facilitating a private retreat this weekend, but then so it was going to start on Thursday, and then on Wednesday, I think is when you started not feeling well. Thursday morning. And then I started not feeling well on like Thursday evening, so we ended up having to reschedule our private retreat for this weekend.
Which worked out.
Well, we had that weekend cleared, so we decided that we were just gonna, be in our love bubble, in our love nest, So we spent a lot of time together in the last couple of days. So yeah, just kind of, I guess self-care, just taking it easy, a lot of conversations, lots of time, just
connection, intimacy, of course, sex. We literally went to the coffee house yesterday and talked for 3 hours in the morning. Mm-hmm. And our conversations go very deep, just as our work goes very deep. And so there was a lot of emotional things. Our conversations are very vulnerable. I think this is all really good and important to share for you all and anyone catching this, because it didn't used to be like this for us. And you had a moment.
Yeah, I did have a moment, and actually it's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Last week we talked about our inner divine union when it comes to the masculine and feminine, because there's a lot of different kind of divine unions, right? But what we're talking about right now is between the feminine and the masculine. And so yeah, I had a moment of I used to be, I didn't have access to my emotions. I didn't have access to my words, and half of the time Sarah would spend, just her telling me hey, so what's going on with you? Why are you sleeping on the couch? Why are you detached? Why are you angry? Why are you frustrated? But you won't let me in. You won't speak to me. And that was, I know I touched on it last week. And it was, that I felt me expressing myself in that kind of way was a form of weakness, and that I would be seen less than. And honestly, I just didn't have access to it. The program went so deep that I didn't have access to it. I didn't even know that I could stay strong in my masculine, in my power, and be able to express myself in this way. It wasn't even part of my awareness, right? And so yeah, for years and years and years, I was just, very, closed off, rejecting that feminine part of myself, right? The one that is emotional and wants to express and it wants to be nurtured, and I wasn't making space for that part of myself. And so we're having this conversation at the coffee shop, and we're having this beautiful conversation, and we're talking about, our fears and our, what keeps up late at night, our dreams, our goals, and, and really acknowledging each other, and even at times being uncomfortable with what the other person's saying, but still holding space or creating the space for both of us to show up. And I truly believe it's because of the inner divine union we did with the masculine and feminine, right? To create space for the masculine and for the feminine to show up and coexist in this way. And now that have our final destination, that we've mastered this, but we've come very, very far from from what it used to be. So on the way here, I was having a moment of like acknowledging that. Like, when did that happen? When did that happen? And it wasn't like a, you know, a moment that I can think of like, oh my God, I made it. I did it. You know, I'm like, I can now open up to my wife and not feel emasculated or not feel weak, or, you know, I just feel solid in who I am. Like, it wasn't like, just one time. It was just like a moment that I had. It was like small increments, you know, just reminding myself to stay open, you know, involve her in my process, be okay with being uncomfortable, you know, let her in, you know, and just like slowly working on it, trying to stay connected when I wanted to run away and just hide, you know, because I didn't want to be seen in my shit. So it was pretty cool to look back and see, you know, how far we've come in the way we communicate with each other. Yeah. And how we show up for each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, as we were having this conversation, like we, you know, we came back from the coffee house and we were sitting in the driveway in the car, and it was like, just remembering, like, even just realizing, like, I wanted that, like, emotional intimacy from him. I wanted to, like, be included in his process, but also at the same time, I had never experienced a man, period, any man, communicate in that way. So when he did start to try to, like, tell me, like, hey, this is what's going on with me, I didn't know how to, like, receive him. I didn't know how to see him in his, like, pain or woundedness or suffering, unless he was, like, yelling, right? Or unless we were having, like, a big fight about it, because that was all I knew, right? Because that was how I grew up. That's how I was raised. There were only, you know, these conversations were only had at a time when you could no longer hold it in and you just fucking exploded in anger and rage. And that's the only time these kinds of feelings were expressed. So unless he was expressing from that place, I couldn't even hear him. Like, to me, it was just like, oh, okay, no big deal. But it was a big deal, right? And so, like, we were talking about this and having these really beautiful awarenesses, because he was like, oh, I was trying to share with you, but you couldn't hear me, or you didn't understand what I was saying, or what you weren't listening, you know? And I was like, well, that's because I didn't know how to receive you from that space. And I was like, this is the thing with women. I think it's a very universal, you know, experience. Like, we want a woman who is emotionally mature and who's emotionally available and who has access to their feelings. But then when they're, like, standing in front of you, telling you, this is how I feel and this is what I need.
You said woman? You meant to say man?
Oh, I'm sorry. When you have a man in front of you, when you have a man in front of you, you know, actually doing this, expressing in this way that we say we want, we don't know what to do with it.
And that's a really there's a lot something that's very important in that, you know, for it to work. And the thing that is that I was coming to her after I had already internalized this, after I already had worked through this, processed it, yeah. Like and that again was because I became I had more tools, right? It became more relationship for me to be able to do this, my internal work, you know, my own work, right? So I wasn't coming to Kara to be like, hey, solve my problems, or hey, you know,
let me process
with you, let me dump on you, let me ask something of you, right? Like, hey, listen, I'm just sharing my process. I don't need you to fix me. I don't need you to mother me. I don't need anything from you. But what I do need is for you to understand where I am in my process. So, you know, so you understand why maybe I'm a little, you know, detached, you know, even frustrated, you know, nothing to do with you, but I'm just going through this process, right? And the only reason why I'm sharing with you right now is because I want you to understand, and maybe even be supportive of my process, right?
Yeah, or not take it personally.
Exactly, you know, but that's very key, right? That's key. Because I had done that the other, you know, where I wanted her to solve my problems, and it didn't feel good for her, and it didn't feel good for me, right? And we were talking about this inner divine union and the importance of it. Because of that, I was able to create space for, again, for that feminine and for that masculine, right? For me to become that container for my emotions, the masculine be the container for the feminine, for me to be gentle with myself as I, quote unquote, felt like I failed, or like I made a mistake and I was mad at myself, or like I felt like I maybe left her down, or I wasn't being the best father I could, or even the best business owner I could, and to like have that compassion and have that gentleness to myself as I'm going through that process, right? And not inflict pain upon me, punish myself for it because because how dare I make a mistake, right? How dare I not act as a man and be a strong figure in my world. So yeah, that's extremely important for us to do that, right? To to have this conversation, like in the conversation we were having yesterday at the coffee shop. It wasn't like I was asking her, she was asking me, anything. It was just like a sharing, like, oh wow, this is what I'm going through. These are my fears, but this is after the fact that we've gone through somewhat of a process to get to those conclusions.
Yeah. And if we do bring like raw emotions, if you will, by raw emotions, I mean like unprocessed by yourself, to a conversation with the other, we really try to, with the best of our awareness at the moment, we try to be like, hey, like, here's this thing. I haven't like fully sat with this yet. I haven't fully processed this, but here's what's coming up. Mm-hmm. Right. So we try to like, if we do bring that, because there's different activations when we haven't processed our emotions, and there's a neutrality and a groundedness when we have, right? So the conversation can be a little bit more volatile, right? A little bit more touchy, a little bit more like amped, if you haven't like processed. But we do that sometimes, but we'll be like, hey, I haven't like fully, processed this yet, so just like bear with me, but I kind of feel like maybe I just like need to like say some things out loud. And so we do that too, and those can be challenging conversations, uncomfortable, bring us up a lot of emotions, but also at the end can be really beautiful and really healing for both of us. And it creates an intimacy. Again, like, I think that this is like the intimacy component that we've cultivated is probably like one of the greatest gifts of our journey thus far. And intimacy in many different ways, but the more, I think that this is like what a lot of people desire in relationship, is they desire to feel connected, because that creates levels of safety. And like what you're talking about, like the work that you were able to do, the work that I have been able and willing to do. And yes, there's been like a masculine and feminine component, but even as you were talking, I was like, and also a fuck ton of trauma healing. Like, if I'm being very, very real, like, it's not just, let me address my masculine energy, let me address my feminine energy, because inside of that is healing a lot of trauma, right? Like, so I feel like when we just talk about masculine and feminine, it's like, it actually runs really, really deep. Yeah. There's a lot of trauma healing that takes place within that. So it is a journey that like we've had to be really willing to go deep into and really look at ourselves. And like we said, like last week we talked about the inner divine union process, right? And I don't even remember how fully deep we got into that, but it's like this topic in and of itself, divine union, also known as sacred union, also known as hieros gamos. It is a very wide and deep journey,
And so, I'm remembering the part of the conversation we were having at the coffee shop, and one of the big topics that of conversation was that our work, the work that we do together, and the importance of the work we do together, but also needing to have our own work separate from this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that brought up a lot of stuff, right? We've questioned many of times if we should do this work together or not in the past. I don't think we question anymore because we understand the importance of the work that we are birthing and the value that this creates for other people. You know, they're in partnership or they're just, you know, that inner divine union and what we represent. And a lot of the work that we do, that's what we represent. She represents the feminine, and I represent the masculine. We're just a physical representation of that, you know. And but it has asked a lot of us, a lot, you know. And it's like constantly having these conversations, like, you know, constantly compromising, constantly having to, you know, hold ourselves through these conversations, you know. Sometimes feeling left out or feeling like, you know, undervalued or feeling like we're not being seen by each other or, you know, we're not being heard, you know, and constantly having to work on this union, you know, of the feminine and the masculine, because at the end of the day, we are different. The way we see the world is different. You know, the way she interprets the world and the lens from where I see the world is different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's, you know, you're seeing it from the feminine, I'm seeing it from the masculine. You know, our brains are even wired differently, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So the importance of having these conversations and being able to be open in these conversations and hold ourselves through these conversations and, you know, and even whenever we do get triggered, to understand that it is an opportunity for us to work through that, whatever that trigger might be, right? And it's not always pretty. You know,
Literally having so many thoughts.
Yeah. Sometimes, I think last time we tried to do that, we went to the coffee shop, and yeah, we couldn't get to a common ground, if you will.
Two times ago.
Yeah. And we end up just having to leave for that, and we're having to revisit that at a later time.
Yeah, we left in a very heated...
But that's what's been asked of us, to be able to coexist in this business, you know, and this work that we do together. And, you know, yesterday, you know, we're still individuals, you know. There's a level of sovereignty that we still have to have in order for us to come into this union. And we both agree that we both need our own separate, you know, offerings and work, which we're doing, right? But it was just like a recap. It was like reinforcing that, you know. And
yeah,
and this is you know, this path that Kara and I walk is not the easiest by any means. You know, it's a very what do I call it, a high stake, you know, environment where we're constantly having to look at each other and our wounding and our insecurities and our everything, you know, will not be detrimental to our marriage.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like too, this is important to mention additional aspects of what we've been talking about. You know, so yesterday was for anyone catching this on the replay or even anyone watching this today, it's like yesterday was the full moon eclipse in Taurus during Scorpio season. He's laughing because he's not a huge astrology person. You're smirking.
It's just another aspect of us where we have to honor ourselves in that. Yeah. You know, I understand.
Well, you know, a lot of women are going to be watching these videos in the replays, mm-hmm. so I want to share this because it's important, and a lot of them do understand and are very dialed in and in tune. Mm-hmm. Even you are, even if you reject it.
I don't reject it. I don't reject it. That's not accurate. I see the importance of it.
But no, what we were really talking about and what's been really coming up very strongly is like, and we talked about this a few weeks ago actually, was, you know, following your purpose and like you're stepping into your mission and just like basically like going all out. And this, you know, speaking of the sovereignty and the unique difference between the two of us, and this is like where we've had to get really clear. I think when you start talking about like, we've questioned, like, should we do this work together? And it's not like should we do it together anymore? It's like, what aspects of it are we aligned to do together moving forward, right? Like, where is his mission calling to him and where is my mission calling to me? And that's been a really big component of our recent conversations. And I think that this is probably like a really big topic for a lot of people, a lot of women stepping into this work, or even men, like you know, as they evolve and grow and, you know, want to experience their own inner divine union, right? Which is like experience wholeness, is like, ooh, what's going to happen if I do this and my partner isn't on the same path as me? And like, that's what we're kind of navigating right now, right? Like it's really been revealed that we have some very distinctively different purposes and missions. And there is like a big overlap, right? Like where his purpose like fits in largely to my purpose, but they're not 100% the same at this point, right? And so that's again like where we had to be like, as much as we want to like be all like, you know, in our little, like we called it like hold up in our dragon den this weekend, like we've just been like, you know, snuggled up, hanging out, coffee house, conversations like all day long, you know, our you know, experiencing like sacred sexuality experiences are very shamanic. They're very like healing and very deep and profound revelations and awarenesses. And it's like, we could literally be in this like all fucking day, every day, and the whole world could like never exist and we would be the happiest people on the fucking planet. And we live in a very real human earthly existence, right? And we have 5 children and we have a home and we have to eat and we have another business and there's all of these different components, right, that have also to be addressed. And so we have to like still like maintain, like he said, like we really have to work on maintaining our own sovereignty, because we are so like united in so many ways and like our energies just want to like merge and like be together. That we have to be like, hold on, it's like the Vesica Pisces, right? It's like the 2 circles that overlap each other. It's like we could be in this piece of it and just be like the circles totally come together, but we have to like maintain that level of like sovereignty and like being able to stand on our own. And like you said, like having our own things and honoring our own paths. And at the same time, it's like, you know, we don't want to be hyper independent, but it's like finding that fine line. There's like a very fine line there, a very subtle dance of like, okay, you know what? I love you and I want to fucking stay in bed and like make out with you and snuggle all day long. But I know that if I don't go do my own journaling or go get on the phone with my friend and have my own conversations or my own things, that by the end of the day or by the end of next week or whenever, I am going to feel like a psychotic, crazy person. I'm going to feel overwhelmed. I'm going to feel irritated. I'm going to feel resentful because I didn't give myself what I also needed. So there's like you know, it's like this thing that's like, we want it, but then there's also like a fine line of like keeping yourself within that. And I think a lot of us fear that too.
Well, you know, really what started this conversation yesterday was that, like Kara was saying, a lot of the work we do, you know, meets right there in that middle, but also like we do have different visions and dreams, you know, mm-hmm. of like the work. And I feel like what started to happen, you know, was that I had my own dreams and visions that I wanted for Kara to get on board, and vice versa. You know, she had her own goals and dreams and visions that she wanted me to get on board, and it didn't start feeling good. You know, I'm like, well, that's your dream, that's your vision, and I'll support you in that as best I can. But I also have my own dreams and visions, and I would like for you to be supportive of that also, because what started to happen was that we were starting to sell each other on our dreams and visions, right? Like, hey, you know, come over here, come on this side, you know, and come do this thing with me. And it didn't start feeling good for her or for me, right? So then we had to like get clear. I'm like, okay, well, this is mine, this is yours, and this is ours. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's like the union, right? That's like in the middle, that's a union. And the importance of that. And that feels so much better. That feels so much better. Even me, like being in this group, you know, I'm extremely grateful to be able to share, you know, my thoughts. But I also understand that I am a guest here. You know, and this is Kara's space, you know, and I'm just a guest. And that feels really good. That feels really good because I definitely don't want to come over here and just like
take over,
dominate. Yeah, or even make it mine. It's not mine. You know, it's not my DNA. You know, it's hers. You know, so I'm just very getting clear on how this union looks. You know, and creating that space for each other and learn how to dance and that. You know, how to move and yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that this like kind of like I want to like bring about some other examples because like not everybody is doing like sacred soul work with their partners, even though they might love to be doing that. But this like plays out in so many different aspects of relationships, right? Like this can even just be the roles that you play within your household.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, and this is also like not our first dance, not our first time at the rodeo when it comes to doing business together. We've ran another business together, and it was not very pretty. And so this time we're really choosing to do it differently, you know. And so we've had to, like you said, walk through a lot of initiations and do a lot of things differently. But what was coming up for me as you were talking was like, that we really have to, in creating sovereignty, right, is, and again, like sovereignty is not about being alone. It's not about being completely independent, but there is an aspect of, I don't need anything from you to get what I want, right? So there's like a knowing that like you can self-source, and there still gets to be an interdependence, but from, again, that fine line, that healthy place, right? Like not codependence, but interdependence. And that's like really where I feel like we are finding ourselves right now. And there's been a lot of, and then we're still like working through a lot of the little details and the fine threads of woundings and things like that still live and exist there for us. Because there's still a lot of fear, you know, around trusting ourselves to maintain our sovereignty. There's a lot of like boundaries that we've had to learn to implement, a lot of like using our voice and speaking with love, what we need, what we want, like asking for those things and being able and willing to receive it. You know, like these are all the minute details, like underneath of this really big topic of divine union and relationships. So it's like, I'm just really feeling like boundaries. Oh, there it goes. So boundaries.
Yeah. And, so yeah, you know, and the way this all started, you know, to be able to ask for what you want and this compromise and this, it all started within ourselves. First, we had to learn how to give it to ourselves before it could manifest out here. And I know we that's where we left off last week, you know, of that, you know, how the work started within us, you know, and then it became so much more easier to be in this union.
Yeah. And I think it like forever and continues to always be an inside job, right? And then you bring the internal work to the external relationship. And it's not like, it's like a both and, because it is happening also simultaneously where, you know, you might be like representing aspects of my own masculine that I'm like maybe working through or healing from or afraid of or haven't accepted, or, you know, there's so many different like lessons. And the same thing for me, right? Like I represent your inner feminine, and so like we play these mirrors, and we talked about this I think a bit last time.
Yeah, we're definitely been a lot of the activation, a lot of the work that we've done is because of each other. A lot of the mirroring also has happened, you know, absolutely. But you know, you don't have to be in partnership for that to happen. You know, even our children have been that, even our parents have been that, even the business has been that.
Yes,
you know?
the world will be that your mirror.
Yeah, your mirror and that activation for you to be like, okay, well, where's my work at? You know, what is coming up for me? What's the opportunity for expansion here? You know, and that's what but you know, being in this partnership, you know, has definitely amplified that.
Yes, definite amplification.
Yeah, and for sometimes for good and sometimes for worse, you know?
I think that, you know, and I think a lot of people already know this, but it's just worth saying again, is like, anytime you enter into a sacred partnership, it's always going to be, you're going to embark on a spiritual journey together. It's just inevitable. And it's, but it's how willing are you to look at it? How willing are you to receive those lessons? You know, do you want to continue to hold those old stories in place and have your partner wear the face of your wounds over and over and over? Because that is what we do. Okay.
The power keeps like flashing. We had a storm last night. So.
Or maybe somebody hit, because the roads are wet out here.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, hopefully it'll kick back on. And for now, enjoy us in the dark. It's our favorite place to be. Yeah. Yeah, but, you know, I think that that's like a thing that we don't realize, you know, when we get married or when we, you know, enter into like, you know, boyfriend, girlfriend, 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 boyfriend, boyfriend dynamic. Like anytime we're in relationship with someone, even if it's just, you know, a playful experience, those people are going to activate things within us. They are going to mirror things to us. And if we find ourselves being triggered, well, then we can just thank them for their medicine and really look at that. And that's how we grow and that's how we evolve. And our relationship, like, we didn't understand that for how many years? Like 15 years we didn't understand that. And it was just torturous and hellish and really fucking hard. Like so hard, because it was just like trauma spewing back and forth onto each other, and so much pain and so much hurt. And you know, actually I feel called to share a little bit about, you know, when it got to the point where it was like so bad where we did like a divorce ceremony. You know, we're in this really big death and rebirth portal. And I actually feel like we're going through another aspect of that. It's not so dramatic.
And more, it feels like a little more individually. Like I'm going through it and you're going through it. And we're having to meet each other in that.
Yes. And I feel like it is also happening like where we're getting clear around, it's more around like how we're moving forward in the divine work, but there's been definitely some death aspects there, you know, some veils being removed and what have you. Do you want to share about the divorce ritual that we did?
Yeah. So, and this was like actually like one of the pivotal points for our relationship, you know. So what we realized is that, you know, we had this relationship, like we've mentioned many times, that was not the best, right? And when I said not the best, it was, pretty toxic, you know. And we were just, like I said, Kara was saying, we were just wearing the face of our wounds, you know, and we didn't have access to a lot of stuff. You know, we weren't aware of a lot of different things that were happening and why they were happening. And so we just kept like, you know, projecting that back and forth, right? And we, I don't even know how long ago, but a while ago, we embarked on this journey of healing. And so we're both like, you know, really working on this, you know, and we had different reasons why, but we just wanted to be better, right? We wanted to be, break those shackles that were like, you know, holding us back, you know, and we wanted to be happy, you know, just simple as that. We wanted to be happy. We wanted to thrive. We wanted to be at peace, right? And so for many years, we just worked on ourselves. And then but the relationship wasn't like really reflecting that. We were still like a lot of, you know, back and forth, you know.
Blaming each other, a lot of victimhood, a lot of like old, like toxic habits, a lot of fighting, just a lot of hurting each other. And
so we decided that I think it was best for us to just not be together. And, you know, it was a very hard decision. And we were like, you know what? I love you. You know, you love me. And because of that, I am willing to like walk away because I no longer want to, you know, play this out with you. And we both were like, okay, you know, well, no, thank you. So thank you for everything. But this is where, you know, we go our separate ways. And we sat with that we had this conversation that we were going to just basically, that was it. And we sat with it for days. I feel like a few, 2-3 days. And it was interesting because I think we both came to the same realization in our own way, but that we were still holding ourselves in that old person that we used to be. right? The things that we said back then, the things that were brought up in fights, you know, the hurt, the projection, all that, we were still holding on to that you know, fiercely. Like, you know, we didn't want to let go of that, right? Like, no, you used to do this, and you said this in the past, and this and that, you know, and that's what's like really holding us from being able to move forward with the people that we had become. So we decided that you know.
Well, hold on. Can I want to share my part of my thing.
Yeah,
I just real quick,
yeah,
and then you can.
Absolutely.
I remember this, like, realizing in those few days of like, okay, this is over, we're done, we're moving on, and then I was like, but wait, like, have we really tried it all? Have we really done the work? Like, is there still more that we could do? And for me, the answer was that I hadn't done it all yet, that we hadn't, like, explored every option that there was to really fully truly heal, like that we hadn't fully devoted and dedicated ourselves to healing our marriage. There's the lights again. And so that, I remember bringing that to you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Anyhow, that's it. I just wanted to share that.
I can't remember if it was you or me, but it was probably me. You know, I usually have all the good ideas, you know.
It was me.
There was like, I think you had learned about this ritual of like having like it was something.
I feel like we made it up.
It was inspired by something.
It was maybe inspired.
Yeah,
it was
I think you had done something maybe in the past, and you brought it up to my attention, and then, you know, we kind of customized it, and then we made it ours. But what it was that we were going to divorce our old selves,
our old relationship.
Yeah, old relationship. You know, yeah. Because we've done the other part too, but yeah, we were going to divorce our old relationship, and we were going to start from scratch. You know, and so we did. So we had this ritual where we divorced ourselves from the old relationship, you know, and that was a pivotal point. Like, it took our relationship to a different a place, you know, like I'm no longer, and we wrote our, what do you call it?
I think we like did a whole thing where we like wrote out like what we were divorcing, like what we were leaving in the past, or what we were like saying basically like goodbye to. And then we wrote out, if I remember correctly, I know I have this somewhere, I've typed it up. I'm having all kinds of, I'm like, ooh, we need to make that into a freebie for people. And then we did like what we were creating moving forward. So it was basically like our new intentions, but it was very specific of like, this is how we're going to be, and this is how we're going to show up, and this is how it's going to, we should find that somewhere.
Yeah, because it was powerful, and actually we have shared this with other couples and other people that have gone through the same thing, you know? And so, we did that, and basically, I can't remember exactly the details now, I wish I could remember, but it was basically like, I am no longer gonna basically hold you in this box of the person that you used to be, because I know you're not that person anymore, right? But I'm still holding on to that person that used to hurt me, or that used to say things that were not true, or that, you know, needed to play out this this wounding with me. You're not that person. I know that because I see that person is in front of me, you know, moves differently, you know, talks to me differently, but I'm still holding on to that old version of you. And so we did that, right? We, like I said, okay, we're going to divorce this old marriage, and we're going to start new. And we did that. It was like a whole ritual we did. And and then we decided that how we were going to move forward from that place on. And we did.
Yes.
We did, you know, and
our relationship completely changed after that.
Yeah. And I think, like Kara was saying right now, I think there's a version of that happening. You know, it's very different.
Very
different. So Kara facilitated a temple session for me a few weeks ago, and I realized in that session that Kara facilitated for me how I was also holding myself in an old version of me in the past that no longer was me, but there were some aspects of me that I was still holding on. And as I released that old version of me, I was able to receive who I've become now. Who I am now. And I think that for you, I reflected to you that the other day also. I'm like,
today,
no, it's like
yesterday.
How Kara's also the same way. Like, I can't remember exactly what I said to her, but I said, hey, listen, you are this person now.
Like, you are the primordial mother.
You are this person. You moved this way. You're now no longer that version. And she's like, oh my God. I had another friend that said the same thing. I said, yes, because we see you differently, but you're still not seeing yourself in that, right? You're still holding on to that old version of you. And it's time for you to receive yourself in that and to see yourself in that. So maybe there's something here that needs to be done, to fully, make it official, so.
Yeah, I'm feeling that too. I felt a big activation as we're talking about this. I'm like, whoa. So maybe you're feeling this too. In fact, I really want to invite all of you. You can do your own divorce ritual, whether it's with your partner or just with yourself, right? It's basically just like, what is the old identity of either your relationship or of your own self that you are releasing, that you are going to allow to die? Because that's what we had to do. We had to let our old relationship fucking die in order for our new relationship to be reborn. And interestingly enough, like, this has become, our work, like our soul work, our divine work, if you will, is to teach this process to others. And it's individually and it's together, and, or, in our relationship and within the relationship with ourselves. And so that's really the invitation for each of you as well. And you can just very simply, we're still in this like really big death and rebirth portal of this eclipse. So, and the full moon is very much about, right, like releasing and like letting go. And so this is like where you get to, let it die, and be reborn, right? Because that's what, like, the full moon, it's like the pregnant mother and she's about to give birth, right? And she's also like making that transition from, she's no longer just a pregnant woman, she's now a mother, and the baby comes, earthside, right? So this gets to be like the same thing. And maybe this is happening like with projects for you. Maybe this is happening in your career. It could be in your business. It could be, certain gifts are being birthed. It could be your relationship is being birthed, your relationship with yourself. I know I'm working through some like really big like trust things personally, like really anchoring into trust and really receiving like my holy whore. I feel like in a deeper way, in a more whole way. Feeling more accepting of that aspect of myself. So, this feels like a really delicious like offer to you all. Like, you also, even if you've already done a full moon practice, this is another one you can just add on and utilize.
Should we bring it back to the divine union?
This is about divine union. It is.
Okay.
Yeah, because the divorcing piece is about, like, this is part of the divine union process, right? Death and rebirth is part of the divine union process. We didn't get here without dying and being reborn 100 million thousand times. This is the path to any kind of hieroskamos, any kind of sacred union, like we just literally said, like, oh yeah, we've reached this point in our sacred divine union because we divorced who the fuck we were in the past and said, this is who we are declaring that we are, and we chose to receive ourselves as such and believe that it was possible for us to even have this. Because we had a moment, right? Like, we had a moment that we could have said, peace the fuck out. Like,
I see what you're saying. My mind just went a total different direction. And I was like, how related this to divine union? And I remember now where we started.
Yeah, like, you have to be willing to like let go of the old in order to make space for the new. And any divine union, like relational or not, again, we were talking about doing trauma healing and the masculine and feminine work, right? That requires you to get into right relationship with your masculine and feminine. The only way you can do that is if you're willing to let those old beliefs die. You're willing to step into a new identity. You're willing to be reborn.
Yeah. There's definitely been a lot of deaths of like beliefs and stories and, protectors, time to die. Absolutely.
Yeah, I also like feel like a lot of times it's like veils being lifted. You know, like we have these beliefs and they create these like illusionary curtains, if you will, in our subconscious to where we like can't even see what is available for us or what the truth even is, right? Like we both have so many of those over the years, right? And it's like also we've talked about this in previous videos where we have this like subconscious ask of others and we're like, hey, I have this belief, you know, that I can't trust men or that men aren't safe. So here I am constantly asking you to violate me to prove that that's true for me. And then I can say, see, you do that. See, you manipulate me. See, you move me. See, you dominate me. See, you try to control me. See, you hurt me. See, I can't trust you.
Yeah, it's funny because you know, as I say that, like our son's girlfriend was here last night,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking to her. She came in here for him, or why she come here?
Oh, they were just kind of like, I don't know,
You
just
were
checking
you were
in.
doing cards.
I did. I asked her
if
she wanted me to pull an oracle card for
and
her.
then next thing we know, we're talking to her
for 45
about
minutes.
Yeah, about like setting strong boundaries, you know. And she's like, oh, because I feel like I'm such a, you know, I feel like I'm a people pleaser, you know. And we're like, okay, well then, you know, and we're explaining to her about it, and then she's like, I feel like I do that with, you know, Makai, our son, you know. So now we're teaching her and making sense of like why she's a people pleaser and how she needs to have strong boundaries with our son. And how, you know, by her doing that, you know, she won't violate herself, which then won't violate him, you know. And it was interesting, you know, how that all came about. But yeah, it was about her
standing in her power.
Yeah, standing in her power.
Having her sacred no. Yeah, and we've had to do that with each other a lot, and you even shared that with her of like, and when we do that, so this is like another really important aspect of divine union, is when we do set our boundaries, when we do honor our sacred yes or our sacred no, it's such a gift for the other person, even though it's uncomfortable for us to do that. It gives so much to the other person because it's an invitation for them to also honor their boundaries, to also drop into what is it that they desire, what do they need. And I feel like this is actually another really great like little subtopic of the divine union within our relationship. And we kind of started talking about it in the beginning of like from the perspective of our purpose, you know, and where that was like guiding us in our work, but also too like just our personal desires and acknowledging that, and actually how that brought us into even deeper divine union.
Yeah, well, that's been like our journey, you know, because you know, there's been times where, you know, I need to have strong boundaries, you know, for myself and Kara. I need to have strong boundaries, right? Because even though sometimes I didn't like Kara's boundaries, it often offered me an opportunity to have to work through those, right? And I think like before we were working such a, you know, please love me, please accept me, please don't abandon me, that we were constantly violating ourselves for that relationship, right? And part of our healing, our expansion has been to stay strong in our boundaries, even if the other person didn't like it, right? But it offered the opportunity for them to have to work through whatever the activation was. And that has been a huge component in our relationship.
Yeah, it's really permission giving too. Like when we, let's see. I feel like we did like the divorce ritual, and then like maybe like a couple years later, we kind of had this like really intimate conversation of like, ooh, what are your deepest desires? And fantasies, I think maybe we were talking about, which is, you know, a fantasy is a deep desire, right? And we really gave ourselves permission to go there, and it opened up this like portal for us to be here right now on this camera talking to you all, because in expressing that, it was actually like through our deepest desires, it brought us into a deeper divine union. And we worked through some, you know, very taboo, obviously, as most of our fantasies are. They were very taboo, but we really got to explore them, and we really like let ourselves like be in the turn on of having the conversations of like, ooh, this is what I would desire, and this is like how it would look, and this is how it would feel, and yum, you know. And we did that for like a year.
So what happened?
And that helped us also cultivate new boundaries.
Well, what happened was that as we had the courage to express our desires and our fantasies, you know, and to say, well, this is what I want, this is what I want. We had to hold ourselves through those uncomfortable conversations, right? And we kept having these conversations because it was a turn on. You know, yeah, there were at times to hear Kara say some of the things that she was sharing, it was kind of like, you know, and for me to share some of the stuff with Kara also was like, you know, had that feeling of like, you know, great discomfort, you know. And but there was also a turn on, right? Mm-hmm. And so it allowed us to like, just keep having this conversation, like Kara was saying. For a year, we're having these conversations. Then a lot of times would end up like, you know, with really hot sex.
Yeah.
You know, and so we kept training
we were learning to alchemize. We were learning to like alchemize what the discomforts were, and instead of just rejecting the other person's desire, we would really just kind of almost like lean into that, like really what I call is like that dark kinkiness of it. And if you were to allow yourself to have it, like how fucking turned on would you be? And we really started like cultivating this thing that ultimately we ended up like naming like erotic alchemy. And it was around our desires.
And that was another pivotal point for our relationship.
It was.
Because it really like deepened our intimacy, and also like it took us to a different kind of direction with the work. You know, we became so much more comfortable with each other, and even like so having those really uncomfortable conversations, and almost like you said, alchemizing them into like pleasure. You know, this thing that used to be uncomfortable, then it became like, ooh, wow, let's have these conversations. Because they're
it opened the door for me to like start playing with like a little erotica, you know, like I would like send him like little erotica text messages, and he would be like, oh my god, and I was like, yeah, that was so fucking hot, and like allowed my imagination to really just like go to the deeper depths of my desires, like a place that I had really shut off for myself, and to give me an expression of that, which I think is like also so important when we talk about divine union. It's like this is us being in our fullest expressions together. That's what it is, right? That's what it is. And so we really went down this road, and like again, like being like, ooh, well, what if we did do that thing? Like, what would be the boundary there? Or where would you be comfortable, and what would you be comfortable with? And so we really started exploring this, like you said, so deeply, but it taught us how to have really uncomfortable and intimate conversations where we could maintain a connection while also being maybe a little triggered or scared or having shame come up, or having our safety being threatened, and acceptance, or our relationship being threatened, you know.
And we developed cultivated very strong boundaries because of that. Like, this is what I'm available for, and this is what I'm not available for, and that became equally important. It wasn't just like, oh, this is what I want and this is my desire, but it's also like, well, this is where my edge is at, and this is where I, you know, I honor myself, and I can't go past that, you know. And this has translated into everything, and through our household, and through our business, and of course our relationship.
Yeah, and it was interesting. It started off as this very simple surface level, you know, fantasy desire, but where it actually took us was so deep into our sacred work that we are actually here to do. And we could have never, ever imagined that it would have brought us here, ever. Like, not in a million years. But it wasn't probably until a good, you know, year and a half, 2 years later, after these conversations began, that it was like, oh my God, that conversation was guiding us here. Holy shit, that's fucking wild. So it's just also like giving yourself the permission to even like venture into having taboo, wild, and just like declaring your most like outrageous desire and fantasy to your partner. Obviously, you would want to know that they're like a safe person, and we had cultivated some level of safety, I feel like, between us at that point. But it was a really, really beautiful turning pivotal moment again in our relationship that just.
Well, I think what happens if we're going a little deeper is that you have your light feminine and you have your dark feminine.
Yeah.
As I have my light masculine and my dark masculine, right? And it was very easy for us to honor our light, masculine and feminine, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when this conversation started, we started addressing that dark feminine, that dark masculine, the kinky part of us, the ones that wants to be seen, the ones that wants to even protect, the ones that wants to will kill for the loved ones or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that's the part that really we brought it into the light, we started bringing it out of the shadow.
Yeah.
And then because of that, like we've been talking about it, we started becoming more whole and loving all parts of us, and of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like me loving her darkness and her loving my darkness and me acknowledging her darkness and vice versa, and that also added so much more to this union.
Yes.
That I don't have to just love Kara's light, and unless she's like light and love, then I will be happy with her, that I will be content or that I won't feel threatened or whatever. But to love her darkness has asked something else of me. It's to love my own darkness, and for you as well.
Well, I'm smiling because literally this is like why I was giggling right when we got on camera, is because as I was like getting ready for this, he's like literally was like kissing my neck and like whispering things in my ear and like smacking my ass and being like, you're the fucking dark. He's telling me this. You're the kinkiest fucking person I know. He's like, I'm rated R and you're, what did you say?
Triple X.
You're triple X.
But we have this, we've cultivated this relationship where we can, tease and be playful with it, because we feel comfortable with it. We feel comfortable in our own darkness, in our own sexuality, in our own, seduction, in our own turn on, It's,
but this has been a long journey and a long road, and I think that it's like beautiful that we've also like been able to bring so much of it into right relationship and bring a sacredness to it. And that's the beauty also of doing divine union in relationship, is that you get to bring, obviously there's a divine piece. This is divinity, and most of us don't know how to, and I guess actually this is like another really good aspect. Mm-hmm. I don't want to talk we might have to have this be next week's conversation, but it's the merging of your divinity and your humanness. This is going to have to be next week's because we've already been here for an hour, but we'll touch more on that. But like, that's really where what we're talking about now, like these desires and fantasies that we had it merged our divinity and our humanness together in such a really, really beautiful way. Angelique is like, yes, trying to get the sacredness piece woven into my relationship. And again, the sacredness component comes in through intention. You can make anything sacred with just intention. It's like, and then it becomes, once you like embody your sacredness, then everything is sacred. And that's really what we did when we did our divorce ritual. I think maybe that's like why came up today, is because through doing a divorce ritual, we wove in sacredness to now our marriage. And we were like, we were so intentional about, this is who we are allowing to die, and like the aspects of our relationship that we are allowing to die, and this is the sacred intention moving forward. And we've done this over and over and over again. We've done forgiveness rituals with each other. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like really, really beautiful as well, and very healing. And we've done lots of different like sacred intentions, if you will, right? Like any intention is sacred.
And that really allowed us to go access such a deeper level of intimacy and connection, you know, because of that intention of like, you know, even like, you know, sex, you know, it's not superficial anymore. It's we hold it with that sacredness, right? And because of that, we're able to go so much more deeper and in our intimacy and connection.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's become healing. Like our sexual experiences are, yes, they're pleasurable, and yes, they're fun, but they also are deeply healing. And that's the beauty of making anything sacred.
Yeah, our sex, conversations, you know, or, you know, sharing our energy with each other and others, you know, like everything has become that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and speaking of sharing our energy with others, we actually just opened up our new divine union temple sessions for couples.
This has been kind of something we've been talking about for a while now, you know, and I think, like, you know, yesterday sitting at the coffee shop talking about our divine union and the work that we're doing, you know, and how we want to do the work together. That again, that's something that has always been very clear on how Kara and I work together, and the value that there is between her and I when we show up together. And we've been working with women and we've been working with men, but we decided that now we're going to open it to couples.
Yeah. So if you want to bring your partner, your husband, your wife, whatever, to or boyfriend to work in our underground temple, we are now facilitating divine unions temple sessions for couples. We also do them with individuals, right? Well, we do them with women. Anytime he and I work with women, it's always a divine union experience. Again, because we represent the masculine and the feminine, the light and the dark.
So what it is that I don't know how long it's been, but I've been on this journey of learning how to hold the feminine, how to show up for the feminine, how to be supportive of the feminine, how to offer protection to the feminine, you know. And so this is the work that I do with the feminine, as you know, we enter these containers. And Kara is, you know, has, you know, through her journey also has had to really work through receiving that safety and receiving that provision and receiving my love and receiving all that. So when we work together, this is what we're teaching others, right? Teaching the feminine how to be open to receiving from the masculine and feel safe receiving from the masculine, and for the masculine to feel worthy and to feel strong in his masculine to be there for the feminine. And like Kara was saying, we've done this for women, you know, as with women, this is what we're doing. You know, that's the inner masculine, feminine, the work that we're doing with women. But now we have opened this to couples, right? Where I can teach men how to hold you, the feminine, and Kara can teach you how to open up to receive that. Because as much as we wanted, and this has been our experience, and we see it all across the board, as much as we wanted, sometimes it doesn't feel safe to receive it. Right? And so you can tell your partner, hey, I want you to show up this way, but at the same time, be scared for him, for her to show up in that way.
Yeah. It's really, really, really deep. Really is. In fact, I feel like this is really, even just us being able to have divine union conversation right now, the last couple of weeks, has activated a lot for us. It always does. Divine union, you know, it brings up a lot. It's not a light topic. It's a very big journey to undertake. And we are finally ready to share this work that we've been doing behind the scenes. We're ready to share it with others in this way.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's a whole little back to how we started at the beginning, being like what this has been asking of us, and how devoted and committed we are to this work, to constantly be growing and expanding into our own divine union. And now we feel solid and ready to bring it to other couples.
Yep. So we're doing, Our introductory pricing at this point is $555, but these are 3+ hour sessions. There's an intake process, there's an opening ceremony with cacao, and then there's the actual session inside of the temple, which consists of where we're guiding you to connect with each other through eye gazing and heart opening. Where like Eddie said, he'll be teaching the masculine. This can be same sex or man, or hetero couples. It's just whoever holds the masculine polarity in the relationship, to hold and receive, or to hold the feminine, and I teach the feminine how to receive and surrender to the masculine in a way that they feel safe for them. And there's like really, really deep unconscious healings that take place in this process. It's a very mystical experience, very shamanic.
I just felt that, because I've witnessed it and I've been part of it so many times, that it's almost like it's hard to put words on it whenever the masculine and the feminine merge together, and how beautiful, how magical it is, when the woman finally feels safe in her system to receive the masculine, and when the masculine finally feels worthy of being, the protector, the provider for the feminine, and to witness that is like it's beautiful, I think it's what we all want.
Yeah. Yes.
That there's a level of safety that just drops in for both,
to your body,
to both, the feminine and the masculine. That it's liberation. In that moment, you feel so liberated. You feel so at peace.
Yes. Yes, and we always reach a state of liberation in all of our sessions. We've never not gotten there. And so that is like a really beautiful experience to have. And then you get to take that home with you, and there's many levels. It's not a one and done experience. In fact, we are, looking into creating like some packages for individuals to come and have these sessions on an ongoing basis to continue to like deepen as they embody different layers and levels of this journey.
You're right. It's not one and done, but what the simple sessions do is that they show you what's available. Yeah. And they also create like a blueprint of like to follow. To be, and I feel like as humans, that's our process, right? Sometimes you can't see it because you don't know what's available because you haven't seen it, right? You haven't felt it. Yeah. But the moment you feel it, you see it, then you understand what's available.
Yeah. And I want to just like touch on that really quick too. It's like when you're talking about feeling it, it's like you get to experience it in your physical body. It's not just, right now we're talking to you. Maybe you might be feeling sensations in your body because of the activation of our conversation, but still most of it is just knowing in the mind. But that's not enough. You have to bring it into the body. And so that is really such a huge component of our work and how it's an embodiment. And so when he talks about you creating a blueprint, it's like you're experiencing what divine union feels like in your physical being. And that creates an energetic imprint, a blueprint in your body now. And then you have to walk through it, right? Then you have to like walk through and like still continue to like dismantle some of the things, some of the stories, some of the traumas that may be still alive in your body. And that is like the longer journey, like Angelique is saying, it's so big. Yeah. And, but you've now got this imprint in your system. So there's a level of evidence and proof, it's almost kind of like you've got some new codes that got turned on within you. They were already there, but they were just like locked, and now they just got unlocked. And so now it's just learning how to like walk through those doors, right? Like navigating, it's just navigating a new identity is exactly what it is. And it's like shedding off all of those old pieces. And we've been talking about this the whole time. This is the process, and this is the journey, and this is what we would this is what our initiation retreat is. We have our initiation retreat coming up there's an inner divine union within that process that you experience through the initiations that we take you through all of our work. This is what's on offer. And so now we're just offering it to couples as well. So a lot of women want to bring their husbands along, and and this is a great place to start. This is a great place. It's a very big entry point. We go very, very deep. We work very, very intimately with you, and yeah, we're really excited to do this.
Yeah.
So reach out if you have questions, or if you're like, oh my God, book me, I'm ready to go. Yeah, we would love to do that with you. So just message me and we can get the process going and get you scheduled. Anything else? Final words for you?
I don't think so. I feel complete.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you all so much. Super grateful to have you joining us. For those of you who caught it live, for everyone else on the replay, let us know you were here, even if you're catching this on our YouTube channel. All right. Talk soon.